What's up, Guardians? Profane here. Thanks for checking out the video. Today we're taking a look at a new Arc Warlock build that could very well be the most dominating build for Warlocks going into season of the Defiance and Lightfall. An extremely overpowered build with incredible synergy that will see you towering over your enemies in any activity. This build's power derives not from its reliance on mods, but on the synergy that's created between this Stormcaller's class tree along with the weapons and exotics that are being paired up with it. While we'll break down each of these later in the video, we are pairing this Arc Warlock up with the Monte Carlo exotic auto rifle, the Necrotic Grips exotic gauntlets, and the Path of Least Resistance Arc Trace rifle. When paired together, some truly amazing things can happen that will give you the ability of smashing through champions, dominating the enemies in legendary missions, and even pissing off some very salty opponents in Crucible. And the magic all begins at the core of this build, the Arc 3.0 subclass tree, where we are using the Arc aspect called Electrostatic Mind, defeating targets with Arc abilities or defeating jolted or blinded enemies creates Ionic Traces. Ionic Traces grant ability energy and will make us amplified. Ionic Traces will also be able to activate several of the new Lightfall mods, just as Elemental Wells does currently, including mods like Arc Weapon Surge, which will grant bonus damage to arc weapons, functioning similar to that of High Energy Fire or Font of Might. But I digress. We are pairing Electrostatic Mind up with Arc Souls. Now don't get me wrong, I absolutely love sliding in and doing a huge Arc Slam attack, but these Arc buddies are just so damn strong right now. When you're amplified, they're amplified, making them far more lethal and extremely beneficial to use, considering these Arc Souls will trigger Ionic Traces, and when using Arc Souls in a fire team, you get bonus class ability energy back when allies use your Rift. Starting in Lightfall, Arc abilities will be able to stun champions in two different ways. Overloads will be stunned by being jolted, and Unstoppables will be stunned when blinded. With that in mind, this build features several fragments and abilities that can easily and effortlessly facilitate this need as it arises in your journeys through legendary campaigns. And for starters, Flashbang Grenades will become a very handy grenade choice for all Arc builds, but otherwise the Storm Grenades continue to be supreme. When it comes to our choice in melee, there's a very specific reason that I like going with Ball Lightning, and it is because of the Necrotic Grips. Like I said earlier, I love the Arc Slide attack, especially with the Necrotic Grips, but often is the case in challenging activities, you find yourself hitting exploders or becoming extremely vulnerable after the slide attack is finished. But by using Ball Lightning, you cast an arc projectile that has ridiculous range. It emits a lightning strike that gets amplified when you're amplified, and with the addition of Necrotic Grips, it's going to poison all the enemies it hits, just as it would if you were face to face with the enemy. With this setup, you're able to keep distance between you and your enemies while maintaining an aggressive playstyle, and that's why we're using the Necrotic Grips in combination with the Monte Carlo. Monte Carlo comes with two intrinsic perks called Monte Carlo Method and Markov Chain. Dealing damage with this weapon reduces your melee cooldown and grants a chance to fully refund melee ability after each kill. Markov Chain grants a bonus in damage after melee kills or kills with the Monte Carlo. This is going to give us Ball Lightning back hella quick, meaning more enemies get inflicted by lingering spreadable poison. Which leads me to our choice in fragments, which serve as delightful complement to our choices thus far. Starting with Spark of Beacon. While amplified, Arc special weapons create a blinding effect against enemies, stunning unstoppable champions as well. And because of our choice in special weapon, we'll be able to stun overloads since we are using the Path of Least Resistance featuring Volt Shot, which is absolutely incredible on this trace rifle. Unlike primary weapons with Volt Shot, the Path of Least Resistance can sustain the Arc jolting for a much longer duration, keeping enemies stun locked in the process. And thanks to Spark of Beacons, those jolted enemies will be blinded as well. By pairing Volt Shot with Stats for All, you'll have improved handling, stability, and most importantly, faster reload speed after hitting 3 targets. After adding on a few scavenger, finder, and reserve mods for trace rifles, along with a trace rifle reloader mod, you'll be decked out with one of the most powerful weapons currently in the game, getting paired up with an already outlandish combination of Monte Carlo and the necrotic grips. But back to our fragments. We're using Spark of Ions, which will create additional ion traces after defeating jolted enemies, helping get our abilities back quicker. We're using Spark of Amplitude, which will create orbs after defeating enemies while amplified, giving us our super energy and procting armor mods, like the new Lightfall armor charge mods, and mods like Invigoration, which will grant melee energy, or Recuperation, which will regenerate health after picking up an orb. This will also trigger mods like Heavy Handed, which will restore 50% of your melee energy after using your melee while charged with light. We're currently using Spark of Resistance, which is set to see a nerf when Lightfall releases, as is the case with most any resistance buff. So with that in mind, the new arc fragment called Arc of Instinct will be an extremely attractive fragment to use. Spark of Instinct will create an arc blast that jolts nearby enemies when critically wounded. Since we're also using Spark of Ions and Amplitude, this means those jolted and defeated from this blast will create ionic traces and orbs of power if amplified. And to further increase our ability at recharging that melee energy, we're using Melee Kickstart, a great armor mod to use as it returns 15% of your melee energy after use. With the reduction of armor mod cost, many of these mods will become more easily and efficiently paired up. And since this build relies strongly around the weapons and arc subclass tree, the new Lightfall armor mods, specifically the resistance mods, will be easily slotted right in to add to this build's amazing synergy, making the perfect arc warlock build to take into Lightfall. And with that, we've come to an end of this Stormcaller build, featuring the necrotic grips, the Monte Carlo, the path of least resistance, and an entire arsenal of kick-assery that will see you dominating any activity in Lightfall. I'd love to hear your thoughts on today's build, so let me know in the comments below, and let me know what you're looking forward to most out of Lightfall. Thank you as always for checking out the video. If you enjoyed and found it helpful, then be sure to hit that like button below, along with the subscribe button if you're new. Both are greatly appreciated and both really do help support the channel. And until next time, Guardians, this has been Profane, wishing you all some happy hunting.